And speaking of unpaid and paid, there was a pay for a fight this past weekend. What did you think, Earl Spence, Danny Garcia?
Well, again, the only question in that fight was going in was the impact on Spence from the accident that
Sure.
he had. Uh, because all things being equal, I mean, Danny Garcia didn't figure to be competitive, which he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's very, very slow. He doesn't throw in a lot of punches. He's, he's a good Class B kind of fighter. I mean, and who's made the most out of his limited skills.
Sure. Sure. What do you think the numbers are for that pay per view? Because I know you probably made a few
Well,
calls.
yeah, the reports that I get are tremendously low
Hmm.
because satellites did no business, like DirecTV and Dish.
Hmm.
Uh, the cable systems did very little business, and the digitals helped, but they didn't do too much business either.
Okay.
Look, in these economic times, you can't take a fight like that, which is not the best against the best,
Hmm.
and expect people to pay $75.
Right.
Now, before the pandemic, people might pay an extraordinary large number because they weren't watching it in their own home,
Right.
in the seclusion of their own home. If they showed it in their home, they would invite four other couples. It was like a good excuse for a party.
Hmm.
So then if you're spending 75, $80, it's really not that much because in many uh, of these parties, people chip in. And if one guy is paying for the telecast, the other guy is bringing the beer, and somebody else is bringing the pizzas. So it all evens out. But to spend $75 to watch a fight at home by yourself or with your wife, uh, that's a lot to ask,
Hmm.
particularly when it's not something that is must see.
Right.
You see, and you look at the Tyson Jones exhibition,
Hmm.
and that was an exhibition, but it turned out to be a very entertaining night.
Right.
They they charged $50, and so many people bought that uh, based on nostalgia.
Hmm.
They weren't expecting a real fight, but they remembered how they watched with their friends and relatives when Mike Tyson was fighting in his prime, or when Roy Jones was fighting in his prime. And this was like a nostalgic trip
You took the words out
to
of
the
my mouth.
past.
Hmm.
So people anteed up the money and watched it, and uh, the people who promoted that show put on a lot of entertainment, and I think people by and large enjoyed the experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say so because I'm going to agree in terms of the nostalgic. Because I actually told my son, I was like, "Hey, come here. Roy Jones is fighting Mike Tyson. I never thought I'd be able to share this experience with you." So I would agree from that perspective.
Yeah,
And it was fifty
yeah,
dollars,
yeah,
$49. Excuse me.
yeah. That's right, and also it's an exception. But if you take two guys, you take a guy who is a leading, is a heavyweight, and you put him in with somebody who, in effect, has lost every time he had a major fight. He lost because he didn't work hard enough in the ring.
Hmm.
He didn't throw enough punches, didn't take enough risks. You're not going to do any business.
Right, right. And how would you rate Earl Spence performance? Because I remember when he had the accident, you said you had some sources that said that he probably wouldn't be the same and potentially wouldn't fight again. So based off of that sources you had and your belief, and you see him in the ring Saturday, what grade would you give him? As go ahead.
I think a very, very high grade. The only negative was as the rounds wore on, he tended to get tired.
Sure.
And I think that was more because of the fact that he hadn't been in the ring for so long, then that it was a physical effect from the injury. But I don't know. I mean, certainly he started off really well, and he clearly won the fight, but his work level tapered off in the last rounds.
Sure.